Tomorrow, forever. What is a crossover? Webster's dictionary defines a crossover as to reach a broader audience by a change of medium or style. In the world of cinema, there have been many great crossovers in the past 20 years. 2003, Freddy vs. Jason.
It's time to put this bad dog to sleep. For good! Not my arm!
2004, Alien vs. Predator. 2021, Godzilla vs. Kong. And now in 2023, we get the first great podcast crossover. It's Evan Moody, Andrew Gruthius, Van Dammit.
How's that Dumbo chance?
A tragedy.
With Sicco Hersnick, Hugging the Cactus.
Give me back my son!
It's 1993's Nowhere to Run, and it starts right now.
Fugitive with nowhere to run.
How come you've got a gun? You a bad guy?
A family with everything to lose.
I'm not gonna give up my home.
And no one to turn to.
Sam!
Move on.
Who are you?
You're not from around here, are you?
When the enemy can destroy a town.
They want your land. Why?
We're gonna need her parcel. It's right in the middle of the whole development.
And the law is on their side.
Stop right there.
The only hope for justice.
For everybody's sake, just get out of here!
Is an outlaw.
When push comes to shove, you're gonna be dealing with me. I look forward to it.
It's our duty to inform the authorities of Mr. Gillen's whereabouts.
Sam, something's wrong.
If I see you near her or the children, I'll kill you.
Jean Claude Van Damme, as you've never seen him before. Nowhere to run.
Live from the last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network studios, It's Nothing Worthwhile presents Van Dammit, a podcast about Jean Claude Van Damme. Here's Evan Moody and Andrew Gruthius.
Nowhere to run to, baby. Nowhere to hide. Got nowhere to run to, baby. Nowhere to hide. It's not love.
Van Dammit is going international. Evan Moody live from Phoenix, Arizona. Andrew Gruthius live from Coconut Creek, Florida. On today's show, we're going to take a look at 1993 Nowhere to Run. starring our guy Jean Claude Van Damme, Rosanna Arquette, Kieran Culkin, and Ted Levine. But first, let's bring in our esteemed guest. He is one of our last of the Action Hero Podcast Network brethren. He hosts the Hugging the Cactus podcast, featuring our most favorite anti-Semite Mel Gibson, Sicco Hersnick. I hope I got it correct. Out of The Hague, Holland. Welcome, my friend of Van Dammit. The floor is yours. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Goedenavond, heren. Yeah, I am the host of the Mel Gibson podcast, also the host of the Arnold podcast, and also the guy who just does random movies for fun with pretty much everybody. So, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor and a privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you joining us. This is like Groo. I think this is he's only this is our second co-host from the last of the Action Heroes.
Ryan.
We just had Ryan.
Yeah, we had Ryan.
Our CEO, of course. I mean, the big dog goes first.
That's it. Yeah, we had to pay our tribute up to the top dog. We went on his Bon Jovi.
Got invited to the penthouse, eh?
Yeah, but that was it. We had one visit. And
one night stand.
It's been a radio silent for 2 years ever since.
You know what? That'd be a good name for a new Bon Jovi song. One night stand.
There you go. Well, let's bring him in. Our resident Van Dammeologist, Andrew Gruthius. Groo, how the hell are you, my friend?
I'm freezing my ass off. It's cold here today, man. It's in the high 40s.
Same thing here in Arizona.
Yeah, so I see you got your ski cap on. Everything's good. We had a nice little cushy 4-day weekend here. We got MLK Day on Monday. We had the end of our quarter on Friday, so we had Friday off. And everything's good here. Just been looking forward to first watching this movie and talking about it. I've been really looking forward to doing this.
I gotta Andrew's describing our work week. You could see here in America how we really don't push ourselves. We just came off of a 2-week winter break here for most school districts. Andrew and I are both educators. And then I got 2 weeks off, and now I got a nice 3-day weekend. Actually, Friday was a work day, so it's essentially a 4-day weekend. We like to ease our way.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, we can't.
American labor productivity is world renowned.
Yeah, we can't just dive into the deep end. We got to slowly
have 3 or 4 jobs, isn't it?
Well, I think I said on our last podcast, if I have to go to the cleaners and the grocery store in the same day, it's enough. There's not enough time in a day for that. Yeah. So there are stark differences to that kind of ideology. But all is well here. How's things going in AZ?
It's cold. You're right. It's cold here. It's cold. I got the heat on, actually. Everything's great. The same thing here. Looking forward to, I'll be hopping on a plane in 2 weeks, heading down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yes, sir.
I'll get a chance to spend a couple of days with mom and stepdad, and then Groo and I hopping in the jalopy and off to Orlando, Florida to see Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band live in Orlando, Florida. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the podcast, but looking forward to that. Fellas, before we have nowhere to run, let's check out the latest news on our favorite 80s action stars. It's time for Van Dammit, Spanning the Universe.
Van Dammit, Spanning the Universe.
Hey, Sicco, do they have med spas in Holland?
Describe a med spa to me.
Like Botox, and women get their lips filled, and facials, and teeth whitening, and tattoos, tiny tattoos, and all that, all that good stuff. Medical weight loss.
Parlors that do nails, of course.
Yeah, you did infer that on the Facebook Messenger, yes. Well,
that was great. That was good. I got to give you that one. I got to give you that. That was really good.
You cannot get a happy ending, I think, officially at New You Life Center, but this podcast is brought to us by New You Life Center. Check out all their wonderful laser treatments at www.newyouLifeCenters.com or give them a call, 602-274-0068. Tell them Moody Groo sent you and receive a big 15% off your first service. That's New You Life Center. Restore your youthfulness with confidence. Let's start that new you. Free consultation, customized services, feel good in a stress-free environment.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. That's New You Life Center. Andrew will be visiting New You Life Center in a couple of months.
That's
right. He will get some, I don't know, we'll do something to him. Lasers,
we'll do something to him, great. and then Sicco, and then we'll hit the Asian massage parlor.
Sounds good to me.
No, that's when we go to Florida.
Yeah, all right, okay, fair enough.
There's this nice street I'd like to introduce you to.
I got to get over to Amsterdam, of course.
Let's talk about that off air.
We have Asians there too, you know. There's an entire Asian street. Don't worry.
Nice.
There's flavors for everybody.
Oh, beautiful.
Well, hey, that's great. We love diversity and flavoring. Do you guys want to hear about Jean Claude in Ukraine?
Yeah.
He's in Ukraine?
While Van Dammit strives to be somewhat apolitical, our guy Jean Claude has joined the League of Famous Personalities supporting Ukraine. Jean Claude Van Damme visited the war-struck country about 3 weeks ago and was seen wishing for the country's victory. A video of the kickboxer actor was shared on social media. The video was shared by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on its Twitter handle. The video shows Van Damme standing with a group of young boys and girls, seemingly Ukrainian soldiers, and further encouraging all to cheer in favor of the country's victory. Speaking in the local language, Van Damme shouted, "Slava Ukraini!" twice, which means glory to Ukraine. The ministry, while lauding the support of the 62-year-old actor, wrote, "It is no coincidence that Jean Claude Van Damme shouts Slava Ukraini twice. He, like no one else, knows what double impact is." His visit comes at a time, fellas, when the actor has been making pro-Putin statements in the past and also has made multiple visits to Crimea following its annexation. As soon as the video and photos went viral, many took to the comment section and shared their reactions. A user wrote, "Here is a great martial artist, wonderful actor, and an amazing human being," while another commented, "He is a great man. People know that Ukrainians fight for their own and only their own." Slow week in terms of news for Jean-Claude, but clearly Jean-Claude picking a side here. Fellas, any thoughts? Jean-Claude and Ukraine.
He's a disappointing virtue-signaling bitch.
Oh, strong take.
Hey now.
Stay out of politics. You're an entertainer. You're there to entertain. You're not there to be political. We don't give a shit about your politics. We just want to watch your movies and enjoy it without being ripped into the real world. Thank you very much. I don't know about you guys, but I am so sick of entertainers shoving their politics down my throat. Thank you so much. I can make up my own mind.
You're speaking my language, but let me throw it to my partner Andrew Groothius. Groo, your thoughts on Jean Claude?
For the most part, I agree with both of you, although I'm a little more accepting of it, only because I do think that celebrities and people on that level, they have an influential voice over people, and sometimes, I don't know, if their heart's in the right place, they have just as much of a right to do that as we do. But either way, that's JCVD's, that's his part of the world over there. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't look at it. I'm talking about Europe. I'm talking about Europe. I'm not talking about Europe. No, I'm saying it's not like no. Here. This will put it in perspective for you. When Sean Penn comes out on stage and talks about Ukraine, I don't give a shit. You know why? Because Sean Penn has no more authority to speak about that than I do, because we're here, okay? Mm-hmm. But you guys are there, all right? Or at least closer to it, and it affects you, and it affects them more than it affects us. So that'd be like any entertainer here talking about any war that we are in,
Jean-Claude Van Damme barely speaks Dutch or French anymore. He just speaks pidgin English because he's been in LA most of his life.
I understand.
But here's my thing. If you're going to your line of thinking, Andrew, then Sean Penn would have just as much of a right to speak on it as Jean Claude. The problem that I have is when celebrities pander. So I don't, when we have the Golden Globes and, celebrities go up there, instead of thanking, God and thanking their production company, they want to tell us how to live, how to vote. I don't have as much as a problem of Jean-Claude going on a quick video and, shouting something and posting it once. But when we start to pander, when they start to, it's repeated messages over and over again and repeated messages in the product, the actual films and the actual television shows, that's when I get turned off. I don't, in a sense, disagree with you. They're private citizens. You and I could speak on something just as much as they, but I do agree with Sicco. For the most part, it benefits them to really stay out of that realm. And that's my opinion.
We all know this is all about, they say this stuff to get into the right party, right? So they're in the right party and they meet the right producer and they can pitch their little movie, but they won't get through the door unless they spout certain platitudes about what's hip right now in Hollywood.
So you think that a lot of these
sincerity to this in any way.
Okay, so you think that I see where you're coming from, and I'm trying to agree. So you're saying that it's basically no, seriously, you're saying that it's like basically a career move.
Yes.
Okay.
These are adult pretenders.
Okay.
You don't think that you don't
why? All right. So wait.
You don't think that there's some truth to that?
No.
Some?
No, Andrew.
Some, yes, but then I would question this. Okay, why would somebody? Let's just take a Sean Penn, who I really don't care about, but I'm using him as an example. All right, here's a guy who, at this point, needs to answer to nobody. He's done everything. He's seen everything. He's got like 2 or 3 Oscars. He's got all the money in the world. Why would he feel the need to do something like that as a career booster? Like that's the only time.
Relevance.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Sicco.
I think it's irrelevant. And whenever you spout something that the media likes, they will amplify it. It's just a way for him to get the attention he's wanted his entire life. There's a reason why he's an actor. He wants to be the center of attention. He wants to be the leading man. He wants to be, revered all his life. Obviously.
All right, I'm gonna agree.
Let me make a point, Andrew. Let me make a point. We're going to talk about Stallone in a second. Did you not come on this podcast and say Sylvester Stallone was hurt by his political choice? He's known to be a conservative.
Yep.
When we talked about the Golden Globes and we talked about the Oscar, when we talked about Creed and perhaps him getting an Oscar nomination for Creed, and he didn't get it.
That was my theory. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Look, it's very simple why he didn't get the Oscar. It's because at the Golden Globes he didn't thank the right people.
Really?
Remember his speech?
No.
He forgot to thank Ryan Coogler.
Oh, come on. You really think...
Ryan Coogler is kind of a woke... Isn't Ryan Coogler kind of a woke guy?
Look, that whole Creed thing and all those nominations were all about pushing Ryan Coogler.
God, I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah, me too.
Ryan Coogler is kind of a woke guy, though. He did that Fruitvale Station, which is kind of like a social justice-y kind of movie, right? So is that what you're inferring? I mean, or is that what you're saying?
Well, no, he fits the right, he ticks the right boxes.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow, that's
I can be more politically incorrect, but I prefer to take the Craig Cohen approach and just say he ticks the right boxes.
By the way, I don't consider that politically correct. I mean, listen, the thing about it was sometimes Andrew and I spar on this podcast. We try to stay out of it, but I'm 52. I have to be okay with people having different viewpoints than myself, as well. So,
hey, as my American colleagues on these podcasts like to say, I'm a polarizing guy. Actually, I'm not.
That's why you're on here. I
just think for myself.
Controversy creates cash.
Yeah, I like your takes, and clearly we seem to be similar in viewpoints. Well, guys, let's move on to
Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, very good.
That's nothing worthwhile. Yeah, it's enough. By the way, I think I texted. I've talked to Andrew. I've rediscovered his 83 Weeks podcast.
Me too.
Super enjoy his takes on the wrestling business.
Yeah, he's like the smartest bastard you've ever heard.
Well, one thing I do like about Eric, I do want to move on, but one thing I do like about Eric, which I think makes for good broadcasters, he's super honest. Like, he really lays into himself when he is critical of himself.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And he could be critical of others, but he will not spare himself, you know, when he talks about some of those real huge misses in WCW. And he will not, you know, he will, and I do like that about him. He will not spare himself. Guys, on Sylvester Stallone, for nearly 50 years, Sly has been writing, acting, producing, and directing many of his own projects. But after his latest dual role, leading and executive producing the Paramount series Tulsa King. Thank you, Andrew Gruthius, who shared his Paramount Plus credentials.
Hey, we're not allowed to do that. Stop.
Okay. Stallone actually, though, guys, may be staying behind the camera on his future creative endeavors. When asked if he's writing any passion projects to direct and star in, Stallone said, quote, "I might, but maybe not acting." He mentioned Poe, the Edgar Allan Poe biopic is long...
That's been as well as for like 30 years, hasn't it?
About that for 50 years.
Yeah. Listen, guys, what do you want from me? I went on Google, and as well as Tenderloin, a TV show he's developed with Yellowstone director and executive producer Stephen K. Well, look, guys, the tone of the article is that Sly is inferring that perhaps after Tulsa King, the majority of his creative endeavors will be behind the camera. Stallone looking into his future, fellas, could it be directly behind the camera?
No, he just hasn't gotten any offers yet. He's just waiting for offers.
Real
This is all maneuvering.
Well, all right, I will.
Let's not say too much.
Sly.
Well, let's not say too much about Tulsa King, because I want to. Right. Tulsa King could be a future podcast.
Right. But I do believe that the Tulsa King thing will sort of reinvigorate his love for acting in a way.
Agreed.
Because I do think he's going to get recognized in many ways. And that's all I'll say about Tulsa King. But I'll agree with Sicco. He does have. I mean, just like any of these other guys, they need to be the center of attention. And Sylvester Stallone is no different. He's admitted as such. So I think that I read the same article you did, or at least a version of the same story, and what I got out of it. Well, no, I get notifications. So what I got out of it is that as far as he's not going to direct himself anymore, which means that he might be involved in the production in certain other projects. And
he probably shouldn't direct himself, actually.
I disagree. I think he's massively underrated as a director. But that's
Stallone's MO has always been get a project moving, and then direct myself through a weak director. That's how it works.
Yeah, but when his name is on it, it's much better. He hits as a director way more than he misses.
No, better directors.
What's that?
If I could interject,
really? You think so?
Here.
Yeah.
If I could interject here,
Tkachev, and his best stuff is Rocky 1. Those are all great directors.
All right. Well, let me throw some other. All right, go, Evan. Go.
I was just thinking of the Billy Joel analogy. We discussed Billy Joel prior. Billy Joel has produced himself. When he gave over the reins to other people like Phil Ramone, he produced his best work. And so, again, I don't know Stallone's filmography backward and forward, but I have to think as an individual, as an artist, it would be better for me to have somebody else. I mean, that's why you and I do the podcast together. We're able to throw ideas off of each other, and that's kind of like our muse in a way. And so I like to think creatively, not even specific to a specific project. I'm hearing what Sicco said about Stallone's stuff earlier, but I think as a guy, I'd want to do the work and get somebody else to take a step back and look at their lens and filter it and feedback to me, and I think that's how I would be able to get my best creative work, no matter whether it's film or song or whatever.
Stallone is the biggest and greatest action star, or movie star really, of the 80s. He was the biggest of them all. And the reason why he was the biggest of them all is because he was very, very conscious of his inabilities, and he knew what his downsides were. And through weak directors, he could make sure that he was always shown in the right light.
Are you talking about also like when he got into his handsome phase and with the muscles and, okay.
Yes. He amplified his strong points and he could hide his weak points. Yeah. I'm a bodybuilder. That's what we do.
Yeah, but for every Tango and Cash, because I know that one is famous for that.
Yeah, but that was a money grab.
Right, but what I'm saying is...
He was broke.
Right, but what I'm saying is...
He needed a big contract.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is...
I feel like I'm watching Fox News or CNN.
He directed... But I think that's one of the ones that he, he directed himself through... two other directors. It was like
that's why it's
Andrei Konchalovsky and right.
Please, with the Andrei Konchalovsky. Come on,
what?
Andrei Konchalovsky.
He was the listed director of that movie, but we all know who really did. But I'm just going to throw out one example, one non-Rocky example. I think Rambo from 2008 is an absolute masterpiece. And he directed that, and you said the same fucking thing last week.
No. Sicco, listen to this shit. Listen to this. I was sitting home one day, Christmas break, and I was watching Rambo 2008. Is it 2008?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So the scene where he gets the stationary gun and just levels about 50 Asian folks with the limbs everywhere. I videotaped myself watching it. I was sitting on the couch and I'm laughing because the scene is he definitely amps up the realism with the violence, but it's fairly ridiculous. So I'm laughing and I send him this little clip. And he writes back, "Oh, come on, man! I love that movie, and I love that movie too. But that scene is just so over the top, for lack of a better word, with the violence. I mean, I did like 08 Rambo comparative to Rambo 3 and even like Rambo 2. I'm not going to put it on the list of best films, but comparative in the Rambo series, I mean, I super love that a lot more than Last Blood, the last one that he did.
It's the second best.
Thank you. Okay, I'd put it, I agree as well.
It's the second best.
And I think, think it was his directing.
Nothing will ever touch First Blood.
I agree with that as well.
Because that's brilliant.
Agreed, 100%.
But the rest, the one thing that has annoyed me about the Rambo franchise is the fact that Stallone plays Rambo differently every movie. It just annoys me to no end.
Well, here's what I would say. Last Blood, it's
that's just
unrecognizable. I mean,
he's playing Sylvester Stallone in Last Blood.
It could be anybody. I do want to move on, because, Sicco, you mentioned you're a bodybuilder, so I want to talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger for a second. So, fellas, Arnold Schwarzenegger has kept the exact same morning routine for years. In the latest online issue of Men's Health, Schwarzenegger revealed the things he does every day that helps him keep him active at 75 years of age. Schwarzenegger attributes at least some of his focus and drive to having kept the same daily routine over the years. Quote, "Each morning I make my coffee, I feed my dogs, Whiskey and Lulu. As my coffee is finished, I ride my bike to the gym and exercise, then I eat my breakfast. That's the first time of the day I let myself start thinking. It's been like this throughout my life," he continued. Quote, "I was first motivated by Reg Park, the former Mr. Universe who became Hercules in the movies, but having that spark of motivation wasn't what created my success, it was my routine. The 7-time Mr. Olympia winner added that building this kind of repetitive consistency into your daily life can take some real effort at first, and that ideally you need to reach a point where it becomes automatic and you do it without thinking. Quote, "You need discipline until your routine is so automatic you never even think about it. Because once you start thinking, your mind will fight with itself." Fellas, Arnie's advice at 75 years young, routines and consistency, and I, for one, could not agree more.
Yeah, well, it does. It helps that It helps that he's able to pay somebody to do his thinking for him. But besides that,
no, he's not married anymore.
No, these guys. All right, now I'm gonna be.
I want to do Brian the dog from Family Guy.
All right. So I'll respond to this. I am a huge Arnold fan, and I absolutely 100% believe in that. I wish I was able to do that kind of thing, like you guys can do, like they can, like he can do himself. But I think, like, routine-wise, but and this is where I'll be a little bit of a snob, because I have seen a little bit of that side of life. These guys, they don't have to worry about anything other than showing up to what they need to show up to, as far as, like, they don't need to worry about their credit card bills being paid. They don't need to, like, so they don't have to think about a lot of the shit that people like us have to think about. Like, we'll be at work doing 12 things and we'll realize that, oh my God, I got to get this bill paid, or I got to get the car taken in, or I got to do it. They have all these people who do that stuff for them. So it's very easy to take a lot of the normal everyday shit that most average people around the world have to deal with. So that being said, to still maintain that kind of routine that he does to get to, which got him to the level that he got at, that he is at, and that always has been, it's fantastic. And I think it's great. It takes an incredible amount of willpower, so God bless him.
Yes, well, that's nice, but Arnold is now about 5% of what he originally was.
Well, age is...
Okay, he's looked this way for half his life now, because he had a heart attack somewhere in the mid-90s, and he needed major heart surgery. They opened him up, and they replaced some valves, and recently they did it again. So he went off the roids somewhere in the mid-90s. No, it's a fact.
He's admitted to it.
And he got a heart condition because of steroid abuse. And so he went off the roids in his mid-40s. And that was it for him, physique-wise. He looked like a used condom after that. And this is the greatest bodybuilder of all time. This is the most perfectly developed human being ever. I mean, he was a god. In the 70s, he was the perfect male. And then when you look at him in his 40s, well, hey, it's great that you have a routine, Arnold, but I don't know, maybe you should have taken it a little easier on the testosterone. Huh?
When he was in his 40s, what were the movies that he was doing at that point in his life? I don't know how old he is.
Racer and, stuff like that. I mean, basically he was starting to do movies where he would only show his biceps, and that was the only thing. He wouldn't take his shirt off anymore.
All right, so this is right before he went into he ran for governor.
Yeah, well, he had a heart already.
But this is not about his filmography. This is about his personal philosophy.
No. I was just... I
want to comment on what you said, Groo, because...
Go ahead.
It's the other stuff. That's the work. See, that's why the workouts are important, because I think that ties into what you're saying. For me, it is the stress release, and that discipline allows me to minimize the bills. I make sure the bills get paid on time. It's that discipline and that consistency that I think plays out to other aspects of your life. So getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, or getting up at 4:30, like this morning, okay, I set my alarm for 5. I knew we wanted to tape at 9. I overslept. I got up at 6. Hit the road, walked the dogs real quick, fed them, and I was able to get out and do my run and do a little push-ups and some sit-ups before we got in here.
Good for you,
and I'm not trying to... Okay, but what I'm saying is, I found that consistency and that routine has helped me in those other aspects of life. Sure, they're wealthy guys. Sure, they may have trainers. But you still got to go and do the work. And I do think that, in myself personally, I have stress and I have bills and I have personal relationships and stress, but I have felt that over the last, I've probably been this way since my late 20s. It's helped me minimize those other stressors in my life. Not that my life is perfect by no stretch, but it has helped me, those disciplines and those routines in the other avenues of my life, personally and professionally. That's all I'll say.
I do agree with Groo a little bit. Arnold started working out when he was governor. When he got a busy job, that was it for the working out.
Yeah, but wasn't he like always big with the kids on the lawn? Or maybe that was with Bush or something. Wasn't he always doing like...
Yeah, that was before that. That was when he was...
physical fitness.
Yeah, with Bush.
Come on, kids.
You don't want to eat donuts. Yeah. Well, I'll finish this by all I was doing was coming off what Arnold said about, you go into the gym, don't think about anything. Don't think. I don't start thinking until then. Well, some of us can't stop thinking. Okay, so that's the only thing I meant.
It's just a skill. That's just
but it's also I guess I 100% see where you're coming from. I'm just saying it's kind of rich coming from somebody who probably doesn't have the level of thinking that. But then you know what? I don't know anybody like that personally, so how would I know? I could just comment on what I see in here. So, but
just go on YouTube, watch David Goggins. That's the guy who talks about. He talks about your mind is going right. Yeah, your mind is going to take you to. Guy. He's awesome. Your mind wants to take you to comfort all the time, and so I'm the same way. And at 52, everything's a mind game now. I don't know. I got to get my mind. I think about something that inspires me to get out there. Everything. It's not like in my 20s where I looked forward to it. Everything's a mind game now. But somehow you get.
Arnold learned to focus as a child, and that's a skill I kind of adapted to as soon as I started learning about his philosophies and his ideas. He always said, well, when you're working out, you have to be focused and you have to concentrate completely on what you're doing. And so there can be a bomb going off around me. I wouldn't notice. I would still be finishing my set. And I've always taken that approach to working out.
I actually saw that video that he made the other day, which he said exactly that. He was lifting, and he's like, you have to tune everything else out.
You have to be in the zone.
Right. He literally just put out a video 2 days ago.
When I lift, it's like I am coming. I get the feeling of orgasming. And when I'm lifting, I love that quote from, what was it, Pumping Iron? I'm coming all the time. I'm in the gym, coming all the time. It's the best.
It was the 70s, man. Everybody was coming all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, well, that's why we're nostalgia guys. I'll just say this about Bruce Willis. It is joyful news. Bruce is going to be a grandfather. Rumor Willis, the 34-year-old daughter of Bruce, 67, and ex-wife Demi Moore, 60. Demi Moore is 60 years old. Wow. Recently announced that she's pregnant with her musician boyfriend, Derek Richard Thomas Baby. So basically, the tone of the article is Bruce is kind of motivated now to fight aphasia, which is a brain disorder that jumbles communication skills while causing progressive and permanent damage. Quote, Bruce Willis is determined to stay coherent and lucid for as long as possible so his grandchild could have some happy memories of a grandfather who was present and active in his or her life. The source stated, but Bruce, who is said to be itching to making an acting comeback, it is a race against time. The article does quote a neurologist who said Bruce's condition is likely not only to be incurable, but also he has possibly as little as 5 years before the symptoms overtake him. In March, Bruce's ex and his oldest daughters came together with his wife to reveal the actor was suffering from aphasia. The progressive disorder affects one's ability to speak and understand language, making it impossible for him to continue his Hollywood career. Beside announcing his diagnosis, obviously Bruce revealed that he was retiring from movies. So Bruce is going to be a grandfather. Mixed news on one Bruce Willis. Fellas, the floor is yours.
Go ahead.
Oh, good for you, Bruce.
Every time we hear about Bruce Willis, I get bummed out because it really is just a downer. But it's great to hear that. I mean, it's nice to hear that Rumor got knocked up. I mean that she's expecting. But hey, I'm happy to hear that Bruce is actually thinking of making a comeback. I don't think it's going to happen, but if it is possible and he wants to do one more good thing, I'd love to see it just because I've always been a huge Bruce Willis mark. And I always will be. I just think he's one of the greats, warts and all. So
you want to see your heroes go out with style. You want to see him go out with class. You want to see him go out with dignity. Do the opposite of what Hulk Hogan is doing.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. You know, can you believe that, Evan? I'm agreeing with what he just said.
This is why I like Sicco, because I could tell he's listened to one or two podcasts.
He just dissed my number one hero, and I can't argue with it because
I was a huge Hulkamaniac as a kid.
I still am.
Let me tell you something right now, okay,
brother.
In wrestling terms, no, because we got other stuff to cover. And we got a long, but when Hulk Hogan disgraced himself at WrestleMania in Tampa, when we went there and he walked out in a pirate suit with Titus O'Neil, forcing him and an African-American male to go out there and co-host, and he's wearing a pirate costume, I was like, you know what, that's it for me with the Hulkster, and I don't blame him, but the WWE, whatever they, Vince forced him out there, I was like, this is ridiculous, and so, I don't wish the Hulkster any ill will, and if Groo and I knows if we're out there, I'll go to his restaurant, and I'll be excited to see him, but, it's been an inglorious downfall for the Hulkster. But wait, when you talk about Bruce Willis, I mean, when you want like a classy ending, I mean, you're not happy with on stream Out of the Bayou 4, some shitty where he played 3 minutes.
Crap you just avoid like the plague.
And he's sitting on a chair, with like one sweater on the entire like 3 days, and he got like $3 million. So. Anyway, I mean, it's sad. I didn't know a lot about aphasia, to be honest with you. I actually probably never even heard of it prior to Bruce coming out with it. And again, these articles, I think it was just from RadarOnline.com. I got the article, but to hear that perhaps within 5 years this stuff could overtake an individual is. Probably Bruce is getting the best level care in the world, and so it's sad because
what's going on with him, and I deeply distrust all those fluff pieces.
Okay, yeah, well, I will agree with that. You don't think though that I don't know much about aphasia, but I mean, could this not? Is it not a progressive disease? Could it not get worse for an individual as time progresses? I
have no idea.
Wait, which way are you going with that? Are you going like he's not as bad as they say, or he's worse than they're saying?
I'm gonna probably say, to me, again, I don't know much about aphasia, but it can't be good if they announced it and he's retired. We had read articles in prior podcasts that he had shown symptoms as early as 2017 and had to be helped on sets. And I think the dude, that one guy, Roland, I forget, the one producer had used him in a lot of that cheap streaming shit, like the same company had used him over and over again and may have taken advantage of him per se. And so
all that money laundering bait and switch stuff.
Could be.
He made a buck. And
he sure did. No, he sure did.
I figure he was just doing that stuff to take care of his family, so he could leave them something,
Yeah, and when they're doing them, they don't think, at least back then when they started doing those, they didn't think anybody was going to see them. Now they're all over the place because of streaming. But they're like, yeah, these will come out in Europe, but nobody in America is gonna see this stuff. So it's like when they refuse to do commercials here, but they'll go to like Austria and do a beer commercial, because they'll pay a fortune.
Stallone had a bread commercial here.
Yeah, that's what they do. They don't want to do these things on their home turf because they don't want to look like they are cash grabs. But Godspeed to Bruce Willis. I'm a huge fan. I always will be, and I really hope that he's not. I'm a pessimist when it comes to that. I don't think he's doing too well.
Yes, to quote Andrew Guthius, Godspeed, Bruce Willis. On a very special Van Damme. Okay,
I am Conrad Bain.
We did have our special Say Goodbye to Bruce episode that all the podcast
we did.
On. So if there's any listeners who haven't listened to that, I strongly encourage you to listen to that because it's really fun.
Yeah,
it is fun, and you get to hear.
I still stand by the sentiments I gave then. It's I think Bruce is okay. I hope he has a good retirement. I hope he stays in good health as long as he possibly can, and I hope he stays away from movies and movie people because Hollywood.
But you didn't answer Andrew's question. Are you inferring that Bruce is healthier than perhaps
Yes, I suspect so.
But why would he retire?
Well, maybe he doesn't need to work. I don't know. But I'm going to disagree. I hope you're right. I just disagree. I think he's worse than they're saying. But I hope that you're right on that one. Obviously.
I hope his family talked some sense into him, and they got him away from the clutches of those people who are doing those shitty movies with him. And this is the way they bow out gracefully. We all forgive him for doing that shit because he's ill, and he was probably ill when they were doing that. So there's no personal responsibility there. Right? It's a nice bow tie.
Well, do me a favor, on that vein, could somebody please talk to Billy Joel and not put out another live album? I mean, at this point, fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Guys,
all roads lead back to Billy Joel.
Well, you know what? As Groo and I were talking during the week, I think the stigma of getting paid out has become, I mean, there is social media and people get criticized, but I feel like it's becoming less and less. You're seeing now musicians sell their entire catalogs for gajillions of dollars, and I understand that. I understand.
Rogan said something on his podcast that they don't agree with.
Say that again.
Oh, there were several people who wanted to get off Spotify because Joe Rogan said some things on his show that was also on Spotify.
Right, but what he's saying
about it.
Right, but what he's saying is like Bruce Springsteen just sold his entire catalog, cashed out at like $500 million. And that's that. Well, after
you know what's going to happen now, right? It's all going to be turned into awful auto-tune, horrible music.
Oh dear.
They're going to take the tunes and they're going to reimagine it for a modern audience. You just know that's going to happen.
Hey, at this point, anything can happen with anything.
All of our movies from our childhood have been, tainted.
Meanwhile, all these people are selling off all their stuff. Meanwhile, Stallone can't even get the rights to his baby.
Yes, but that's a different story.
What are you dragging us down this rabbit hole now?
That's he thought he was doing good business. He signed away his rights. He did.
That's true.
He could have bought them back in the downtime between Rocky V and whatever Rocky Balboa. He could have done that. I mean, he's worth about $500 million. He could have made an offer. He just didn't. And suddenly, when Rocky was hot again, that's when he wanted to say, "Well, you were going to give me the rights back." And no, it's just
You've thought about this.
Yeah, yes, well, you know what?
Yes, but he wanted to kill Rocky. He wanted to kill him in Rocky V.
That I know.
He wrote a script, and they stopped him from killing Rocky.
Yeah, that I knew. Yeah.
So that's how much loyalty Stallone has to that character. Yeah, that's how much he loves him. He wanted to be rid of Rocky because it was an albatross around his neck, because he thought Rocky is holding me back from getting real parts. Well, he tried in the 90s. We saw what happened.
Yeah, I mean, not to say he didn't try in the 70s.
Rocky, for all intents and purposes, was dead, after Rocky V, because everybody was like, what is this? And he tried all kinds of stuff, and we got the 90s Stallone.
Hey, Oscar was funny.
Assassins. What's going to happen? What's going to happen next? Bruce is going to cover the Commodore's night shift. He did that. Okay, guys, the lore surrounding Steve. Wow, this is going to be a 4-hour marathon. I got to take the dog to the vet at 1 o'clock.
This is what I signed on for.
That's right, guys.
On for a 1-hour show. I'm here.
That's right. No, Groo and I, we don't do that 40-minute. Let's cover Rocky 2 minutes 30 to 60. Adrian gets a new dress. We do the whole deal. Guys, the lore surrounding Steven Seagal's run as SNL host. It's easier to find footage of Bigfoot riding the Loch Ness Monster. Steven Seagal, the ponytail-sporting, teenage groping karate star of the early 90s, is consistently ranked at the top of the list of the absolute worst SNL hosts in the show's half-century history.
Yeah, he's also the wrong people.
Well, he's also reportedly banned at 30 Rock, so much that every mention, transcript, and clip of the action star's 1991 appearance on the sketch show has been scrubbed from the archives. Though Seagal, this is what my article, I don't know if this is true, that they say that his episode... Well, they say his episode could be available on streaming for Peacock. I thought it was pulled off the SNL archives on Peacock.
I think it's on Peacock, at least part of it. So, at least part of it.
However, fellas, there is one 60-second supercut of Steven Seagal's disastrous appearance that somehow has remained on YouTube for 8 months now. And if you're the kind of person who can't turn away from a train wreck, you should watch it as soon as possible before an army of Lorne Michaels lawyers eliminate the video and have it disappear from view. So, fellas, I'm going to cue it up right now for your viewing pleasure.
Make sure you hit the audio thing.
I believe I did, Andrew. Here is Steven Seagal, SNL, in 60 seconds.
I caught these two guys with 3 kilos of cocaine. What do you think they were doing with them? Making shark for girls' softball games. Listen to me carefully. I don't want you to talk about anything to me anymore. I don't want you to say my name anymore. I ain't seen you in any movies, and what's the afro anyway? You look like Link from the Mod Squad.
I think Dougie here needs a soda.
Why don't you go out and look at it? I'm sure Dougie won't mind. I guess it wouldn't matter if I did, because I wouldn't be there at the time. Michael Bolton, the President of the United States, on speakerphone as he reveals... This is what happens when you pollute the planet.
Fellas, Steven Seagal in 60 seconds on SNL.
Well, I've seen it before. I haven't seen that compilation before. I've seen the episode. I don't remember it being that bad, but Jesus Christ.
Supposedly, Groo, from what I read, the only sketch that was given even passable was the one with Farley as like the burnout, kid trying to date his daughter. Other than that, from what I've read, it was just a complete nightmare.
Yeah, well, I read. I mean, he was a complete asshole to everybody, and he just had these ridiculous ideas for sketches, and it was just a complete disaster. I do remember laughing at the Andrew Dice Clay when he played Andrew Dice Clay on that. You saw it briefly there. I think it was the Jim Brewer when Jim Brewer would do the Joe Pesci show. I think that's what it was, and the guest was Seagal as Andrew Dice Clay. But yeah, the episode it's become like the Star Wars holiday special of Saturday Night Live. I don't think it's that bad. It's bad, but it's not.
Sicco, your thoughts on
singing Wookiees in it?
No, like I said, it's not that bad. There are no singing Wookiees.
It's the word "bad" is
too kind.
Not just that. It's the word you should use is atrocious. This man has no comic sensibilities.
Oh, that's true.
He might be decent as a straight man if you put a bunch of good comedians around him. Unfortunately, he beats them up, and he's a little difficult to work with. So, as far as I'm concerned, Steven Seagal, his career should have been flushed down the toilet in the mid-'90s, and we should have never heard from him again.
Well, the last...
and I'm still sad Stallone pulled them apart, and I'm still sad he wouldn't let them fight, because I would have loved to have seen footage of Jean Claude Van Damme taking that piece of shit, Steven Seagal, apart.
Oof.
Agreed, because it's Van Dammit. And by the way, just to wedge in here, I've said on the podcast, comparative to Steven Seagal, I think Jean Claude is a much superior actor. And just looking at that clip in 60 seconds, I mean, Seagal's timing is terrible. It's just bad. I don't know.
Jean Claude can take him.
I'm pretty sure.
Because
I mean, if you mentioned Sicco, you mentioned Rogan, and Rogan's had guests on that say Seagal is legitimate martial artist, I believe.
No. He's had guests on that have questioned that, and Joe Rogan keeps defending Seagal. That's the problem. Joe Rogan says, Aikido's legit. I'm like, please, Joe.
I mean, isn't Joe Rogan a fairly well-versed... I mean, he does the UFC, pay-per-view, pay-per-view.
Yeah, he's also a comedian. You can't trust the word he's saying.
All right.
He says shit for effect.
I will say one thing in Seagal's defense. There is one movie that he did pre-1995, which is...
Under Siege.
No, not for me. Under Siege is not his best. For me, his best is Out for Justice. I think his performance in Out for Justice is his best performance, and
Dirty Harry.
I just absolutely love that movie.
Is that the one that got renamed and was originally called Nico? Because that's how it was marketed here.
No, that's Above the Law.
Oh, that's Above the Law.
Okay. Out for Justice is Out for Justice.
Straight to video movies confused. I'm sorry.
That wasn't straight to video. I saw that in the theater. You never heard of Out for Justice? Out for Justice is the one where he is a cop in Brooklyn.
That went straight to video here.
Listen, Groo,
it was a hit here.
Holland wipes their ass with Out for Justice, okay? How dare you?
He loves to always gang up on me whenever somebody else is in the room.
I'm just trying to for comedy.
No, but I live in a martial arts country, so we wipe our ass with his martial arts. It's ridiculous.
Okay, so all right.
Is Jean Claude Van Damme? Let's just, since it's a Jean Claude Van Damme podcast, let's just real quickly. I just want to ask you, comparatively speaking, is he seen as a much more legitimate martial artist than a Steven Seagal?
Yes.
And if so, why? Under 2 minutes.
For obvious reasons.
I don't know.
Jean Claude van Varenberg was
God bless you.
a competitive athlete. Well, that's his real name. His name is Van Varenberg.
Okay.
Jean Claude Van Damme is his actor name, but Van Varenberg is his Flemish name, and he was a legitimate karate guy. He's just a good fighter. Now, obviously, he was too pretty to actually compete, but nevertheless.
Let me ask you real quick: why do you? What would cast aspersions though on Seagal's claim or Seagal being a legitimate martial artist as well? I'm just curious. I don't know this.
A certain gentleman we all know and love called Judo Gene, who
Judo Gene LaBelle.
Judo Gene LaBelle.
Okay.
The great wrestling promoter who was in his 80s when he ran into Seagal. And
did he what?
Seagal had been
in the LaBelle lock or something?
Yes, but Seagal had been challenged by every stunt guy in Hollywood because he'd been taking liberties in every movie he did with these people, and they were all sick of him. The stunt guy is in many ways like a wrestler. A stunt guy gives you his body.
Yeah.
And he trusts you not to mess with you.
By liberties, are you saying Seagal was heavy-handed during action scenes and was stiff?
Yeah, he would hit people straight in the face. He would stiff everybody. And you can't keep doing that. So there were martial artists back then, and there were stunt people who would challenge him and say, hey, let's go out in the parking lot and see how good you are. And he would always say, no, doesn't fit with my pacifist philosophy and all that horse shit. So there's at some point there was, there was Judo Gene, and Judo Gene is in his 80s, and, he doesn't look all that menacing. But Judo Gene said, hey, you want to, have some fun? And Seagal got suckered into it, and Judo Gene just grabbed him and choked him out, and he shit himself.
Well,
he shit himself.
Well, these days with Seagal, he does that getting out of bed in the morning. I mean, look at him.
Well, to be honest with you, I do it at least once a week. So I mean, come on. By the way, Groo, Daniel Bryan's finishing move was LaBelle lock, and as Andrew famously said on our last podcast, fuck you, Daniel Bryan. That's right. Because he goofed on The Miz in a promo.
Yeah.
How dare you goof on Mike
Mr. Bryan Danielson.
That's right.
Yes. All right, guys, let's get to it. Everyone's favorite anti-Semite and controversial Hollywood actor Mel Gibson will not participate, I repeat, will not participate in the Crew of Endymion parade. This was announced last Sunday afternoon, less than 24 hours after it had been made that he would participate as the co-grand marshal. The Crew, Krewe, cited threats as the reason, though they did not provide any specifics or example of threats. Quote, the crew of Endymion has received significant feedback about our Grand Marshal announcement yesterday evening. Some of this commentary included threats that cause us great concern. This was a statement from Dan Kelly of this crew of Endymion, whatever this organization is. Quote, in the best interest of the safety of our riders, special guests, and everyone that welcomes us on the streets, Mel Gibson will not ride as a co-Grand Marshal for our 2023 parade. Of course, the Anti-Defamation League, the Jewish Federation of Greater New Orleans, apparently this is in New Orleans, the Greater New Orleans Clergy, and the Jewish Community Relations Council issued a statement. I'm not going to read the whole statement because we know what they're going to say. But the final statement was, Endymion choosing a Grand Marshal with a strong record of hatred sent the wrong message about the event. And I honestly, every time we do Van Dammit, I pull up Mel, and ironically enough, there is Mel news this week. Fellas, he's out as some parade's co-Grand Marshal.
Not surprised.
Okay.
Nobody's letting them. They're not. Good
night, everybody. Good night.
No. When you say anti-Semitic stuff, you will never get uncancelled ever in your life. It doesn't matter how often you apologize.
Yep.
It does not matter.
Can we think of any examples?
You get caught on camera saying stuff that, you shouldn't be saying. This is what happens. I mean, hey,
why do you suppose
I call that thing Hugging the Cactus, and that's why it's called Hugging the Cactus, because Mel Gibson is a cactus, and I have to hug him in order to talk about him.
Yeah, that's really cool, by the way. Because I was thinking about that, and I wrote some notes. In Arizona, I'm out in Arizona. I've gotten drunk a couple of times, and I've ended up hugging a cactus about 3 a.m. So that's very.
Does it feel like you're talking to Mel Gibson?
No, but I want to say this in all seriousness, because when Sicco announced the podcast, I came out pretty strong on our podcast against it, and
I love that.
I was kind of a little bit on my high horse, and so I don't apologize for my feelings. I'll apologize for maybe being a little, quote, over the top. And again, I have to be okay with people talking or taking different viewpoints than myself. However, I did listen to the podcast, and I thought Sicco was a stand-up guy, because he's saying, I'm trying to make the differentiation between the art that he's done in film, which we're going to talk about, while acknowledging he's not a perfect person or not a good person. I don't remember exactly what was said. So I just say, ironically enough, this was in the paper. Now I will say this, and I'll throw it to you guys. I mean, I don't care whatever parade. They got to be stupid to even nominate a Mel Gibson, put him on advertising as some kind of Grand Marshal or co-Grand Marshal. Did they not think there would be some kind of pushback, no matter where they're located in the United States? I mean, come on, stupid.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It surprises me that they would even be surprised that, where was this again?
In New Orleans. I don't even know this organization. I don't know anything about this.
Mardi Gras?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't think so. Mardi Gras.
Jacques from the Bond podcast talk about it, because he lives there, and he was like, "Wow, they canceled the whole thing." No.
Well, they canceled Mel as the co-Grand Marshal. Who was the other co-Grand Marshal? Kanye West or
Bill Cosby.
I don't know. Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
You take the beach and you show your titties and you with the pudding and
the pills and the pudding.
Yeah, the pills and the pudding and the pudding and the pills. Yeah, I don't know. But nonetheless,
Sicco's right. He will never. At this point, they will never ever let him back in. He will always be on the fringe. I don't think. Actually, since Sicco is here, I'm going to ask you directly. Do you think Lethal Weapon 5 is actually going to happen? He keeps saying yes, but he's the only one who's saying it. You think this really is going to happen?
Please no.
But Sicco's the Mel guy. So.
I'm going to throw it to our esteemed guest. I want to hear what he has to say.
Lethal Weapon 5. They were too old for that shit in 1987. they're like in their 90s now, right?
Well, Danny Glover's well into his deep 70s, if not perhaps.
They were playing.
What kind of story are you going to tell?
I would think it'd be like a straight comedy.
I guess he's really too old for this shit.
Yeah, but whether it's a horrible idea or a great idea, he keeps saying he's going to do it, and he keeps saying it's a done deal, but he's the only one saying it. So I'm just trying to like go like yes or no, is it or isn't it?
Fellas, I am not on your level, but I mean, I don't consider the Lethal Weapon series to be in that iconic lore as perhaps some of these other nostalgia ones that they've brought back. And I agree with Sicco. Is there really even? Let's just say Mel had a straight up great career. I mean, is there really that much demand to see another Lethal Weapon movie? I mean,
no,
I don't know.
Absolutely not. But yet, like I said, he keeps saying they're going to do it. They're going to do it. Now, I happen to be a fan in some ways of all four of the movies. I don't dislike any of them. All right, I think actually 2 is the best one to me.
Me too.
But 1 and 2 are to me are classics. 3's a fun action movie, and 4 is a fun action movie. That's about it. So as far as I'm concerned, therefore, you liked it. We saw it together in the movie theater. You liked it. We walked out of there. We're like, yeah, come on. But anyway, I'm with you. I hope it doesn't happen because I don't think they were too old for that shit then, but they're definitely now, and there's a lot better.
I discussed this with Craig on the episode we did on Lethal Weapon. Okay, so the math doesn't add up, right? Because the age difference isn't that great.
Right. Well, Glover was playing Lethal Weapon younger.
On the day, Sergeant Murtaugh turns 50, right?
Glover was 40,
so
right?
we did the math on that because Sergeant Murtaugh went to Korea, right? So when he was in the army, when he was... And so when did Riggs go to Vietnam? How old was he? So basically, did he come in at the tail end of Vietnam? No. He's talking about battles in the 60s, right? Yeah, I was with like this unit, blah, blah, blah. So their age difference isn't that great. It's about 16 years. So why is he like nagging this slightly older colleague about an age difference? Why?
You're right.
They're practically in the same age bracket.
And I was always under the impression, I thought that Murtaugh wasn't in Korea. I thought he was in Vietnam too.
Yeah, but if I could interject, guys, if there was a go for Lethal Weapon sequel, which I guess I don't know. I'm not for it. Not for anything that Mel did. It's just I wouldn't. They don't have to adhere to that timeline. I mean, Lord, if they
could do what they want.
Terminators had 7,000 shitty ass sequels that adhered to no timeline, so they could just ignore. I hear what you're saying, Sicco, and I'm impressed with the facts of the age and stuff. But I mean, if it was a go, they'd find a way to. I don't know. They'll send Danny Glover to New Life Center. They'll give him Botox. They'll spruce him up, and
Mel's going to have to finance it himself if he wants to do it. That's
and if he wants to, he can because he's rich.
Yeah,
there's no if he really wants to do it. It's the same with that we talked about Stallone doing Edgar Allan Poe. He's been talking about that like since the 70s. Okay, it's been done. I just watched the movie with Edgar Allan Poe. Right, so it's been done. So why is Stallone still talking about it? Well, it's his passion product. Yeah, great. Well, you're rich. You can just
do it. Stop talking and just do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Why does everybody else have to pay for your hobby?
That's an interesting point right there.
Right? If you have a passion project, do it yourself.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Oh,
just like let's let's move on here, fellas. Nowhere to run. Boy, we're only an hour and a half into it, but we're finally discussing the movie.
It's typical for this podcast.
It is 100% typical.
I don't know if that's a compliment or a negative, but I'll choose the latter. It's a 1993 Good point. There you go. Action drama film directed by Robert Harmon. Film stars Jean Claude Van Damme, Rosanna Arquette, Kieran Culkin, and Ted Levine. Nowhere to Run was a second collaboration between Van Damme and producer Craig Baumgarten after Universal Soldier. Today's Van Damme podcast, Nowhere to Run, is brought to you by New You Life Center. Making you fall fabulous. Follow New You Life Center on Instagram at New You Life Center to take advantage of their specials and monthly giveaways. Check out all of their medical weight loss programs at www.newyouLifeCenters.com or give them a call at 602-274-0068. Tell Moody and Groo sent you and receive a big 15% off your first service. New You Life Center, Phoenix Premier Med Spa for Botox, fillers, lasers, aesthetics, weight loss, and hormone optimization. A big Van Dammit thank you to New You Life Center. Fellas, Joe Eszterhas wrote the original script with director Richard Marquand, with whom he had made 2 films. He had originally written the script as more of a serious drama film with action elements. However, according to Eszterhas, quote, the script was taken and destroyed many years later by Jean Claude Van Damme as Nowhere to Run. Said Eszterhas, it's lost its sensitivity, it lost everything. I don't even like to remember that movie. Now, Van Damme is also kind of, I think, blamed Eszterhas a little bit. So right off the bat, when I read quotes like that, that does not bode well for a movie, does it?
These guys don't go to the same parties.
Yeah. It's funny how, like, all these people can work together, quote unquote, you know, writing, acting, directing, and never actually meet. Like, they all work on this one big project, and they might never even, you know, exchange a word. That's how many hands, like, scripts go through. Yeah, I mean, going into that, was that, like, stuff that was known before the movie came out? Or is that, like, stuff that's come out after the fact?
I don't know. I don't know. I did do a lot of reading on Joe Eszterhas. He was born in a village in Hungary. He was born during World War II. He lived in a refugee camp in Allied-occupied Austria. Family moved to New York City, and then he moved to Cleveland. He was a senior editor for Rolling Stone from 71 to 75. He's a National Book Award nominee for his nonfiction work, Charlie Simpson's Apocalypse in 1974. He wrote Fist. He wrote the screenplay for Fist, directed by Norman
Jewison.
Well, Stallone wrote the screenplay to Fist, and when the movie bombed,
Eszterhas
wrote it, and then Joe Eszterhas said, "No, you didn't. I wrote it."
Is that a bit of a controversy? I wasn't aware of that.
You should listen to the Fist episode the Stallone group did on it. They go in deep on this stuff.
Well, I mean, I have listened to a couple of Fist episodes and wasn't particular on. Anyway,
You're confusing the two.
By the way, I also got confused on Lethal Weapon because one of my favorite adult film actresses was Letha Weapons.
Weapons.
Anyway, fellas.
Eszterhas wrote a good movie that actually the other guy, Marquand, directed. I think it was called Jagged Edge. With,
why don't we? You want to go do the research? You want to do the research?
Hey, isn't it? If I have a nugget of information in here, I can't.
Yeah, there's a nugget. Well, here's a couple of things. It is a good movie.
It's a good movie.
It was.
Yeah.
I agree.
Scary.
1989, Eszterhas planned to leave creative artist agencies because an old friend was restarting his agency. So basically, Michael Ovitz was the chairman of CAA. He threatened to prevent CAA actors from acting in Eszterhas's future projects. Eszterhas penned a letter to Ovitz. Basically, copies of this letter circulated through Hollywood, and Eszterhas has been sort of
blacklisted.
Well, that he helped to loosen the stranglehold of CAA in terms of the creative artist agency that he had over the entertainment industry. That was my notes that I have. I thought that was pretty interesting. Is that not? Do you know something otherwise?
CAA still has a stranglehold over Hollywood, so I don't think it worked.
I don't know.
Well, I guess there's a reason. I don't think Eszterhas has written anything in a long time.
Well, I'm sure he's written plenty. He just haven't been.
No, that's been produced? Isn't like the last thing like Showgirls?
I'll go over his filmography. However, let's see. He wrote a spec script called Love Hurts, which turned into Basic Instinct, which he directed with Dutch filmmaker Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah.
Let's see here. He went on.
Right?
Well,
yes. And Total Recall.
Well, here's what I have for his filmography. Now, I didn't include everything because I don't want to be here forever. I have Fist, 1978, Flashdance, 1983, Blue Thunder, 83, uncredited rewrite, Jagged Edge, 85, Parts of Fire, 87, Betrayed, 88, Basic Instinct. He received $3 million for that script, 92. Yeah, Nowhere to Run, 93, Sliver, 93, and we're starting to do a little decline here. Showgirls, 95, which was sold for $2 million. Jade, 95, and here's where I'm starting to. One Night Stand, 97. Telling Lies in America, 97, and then the last thing I have of note, an Alan Smithy film, Burn Hollywood Burn, 97.
Yeah, that was terrible.
I think he did something in 05, and that's kind of been it from there.
Well, he's a script doctor. He's one of those guys you call when your script sucks, and he polishes it up for money.
A lot of money.
Yeah, well, he's good.
Yeah.
And this is a good script.
Well,
we haven't really talked about this, but this is a good script. This is actually a good movie, but it's a good script with good dialogue, with good pacing, and it has Jean Claude Van Damme.
We're going to say that because we'll to the end.
Not really a plus or a minus to this movie. That's really what we're about to discuss.
Are you talking about Eszterhas?
No, Jean Claude Van Damme.
Jean Claude.
Whether he was able to do something with Eszterhas' script or not.
Well, that's a good
question. Let me just throw out a couple of things about Eszterhas. So I was actually going to message you, Sicco, on because there is some connection to Mel Gibson and some controversial stuff. So in 2011, it was announced actor-director Mel Gibson had commissioned Eszterhas to write a screenplay, a historical biopic on Judah and the Maccabees titled MCKBI, McB. The film was to be distributed by Warner Brothers. The announcement generated controversy. In a 2008 interview, Eszterhas wrote that Mel shared the mindset of Adolf Hitler. In February 2012 interview with Andrew Goldman of the New York Times, Goldman said to Eszterhas, Gibson's film, The Passion of the Christ, was widely considered anti-Semitic. Then, during a 2006 arrest for a drunken driving, he ranted that, quote, the Jews are responsible for all the wars of the world. All right.
Yeah, they rattle off all the anti-Mel bullet points.
All right, so the guy asked him, the interviewer asked Eszterhas, is he the right director for a film about Judah and the Maccabees? Eszterhas' reply was, Adam Fogelson, Universal Pictures chairman, said to Gibson, why do you want to do this story? Mel said, quote, because I think I should. I like that answer very much. When asked about their shared Catholic faith, Eszterhas said of Gibson, in my mind, his Catholicism is a figment of his imagination. By April 2012, Warner Brothers had canceled the Maccabee project. Eszterhas claimed the break was caused by Gibson's violent outbursts and anti-Semitism, while Gibson blamed a bad script. Eszterhas later wrote a book, I did not know this at all, Heaven and Mel, about his experiences working with Gibson. So, Sicco, I wanted to ask you specifically about the Eszterhas-Gibson relationship, and specifically the book Heaven and Mel. Among many damning statements is that Eszterhas' claim that while staying at Mel Gibson's Costa Rican estate to work on a script, he was so afraid of Mel at night that he slept with a golf club in his hand. I would not ask you anything. That's what I read. Are you aware of any of this stuff with Mel Gibson and Joe Eszterhas?
I'm not.
Okay. Any comments?
I'm aware of who Joe Eszterhas is.
Go ahead.
He's a little bit of a loon.
Okay.
But Mel Gibson isn't. I mean, they're both a little nuts, right?
They are.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking at the artists here. Here you have a great script writer. Here you have a great director. Because you can say a lot of things about Mel, but he's directed some great movies.
One of the best.
Yes.
I will say that.
Yeah.
He is a phenomenal movie director.
Like so many directors, he's a force of nature. And like so many directors, he's completely nuts. Most directors are nuts.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about sharing the mindset of Hitler. Well, if you take your average director and what those people do and the responsibilities they shoulder, yeah, they tend to be autocratic, and they tend to be alpha males, and they tend to be a little in your face about, the quality of work they expect from you. So, and it's a big ship to steer, right?
Okay, I think it's still a big jump from autocratic to a mindset of Adolf Hitler.
And then there's we're both Catholics, but his Catholics isn't as good as my Catholics, and, well, please.
And by the way, I don't know Eszterhas, so your claims that he very well could be. I mean, I don't.
With a lot
I didn't know that he even wrote a book about his relationship with Mel Gibson called Heaven and Mel. I mean, when I was doing my research, I didn't know that, and and I think he also inferred that when he stayed at Mel's Costa Rican estate, Mel would get drunk at night and have these violent outbursts that he'd have to go to sleep with, a golf club or a weapon in his hand because he was concerned.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Well, to be honest with you, when I stay with Groo, I do the same thing. So,
Well, listen, just to cap this thing, you're taking Mel Gibson and Joe Eszterhas, I happen to know a little bit, not as much as you, about Eszterhas. I know he was part of that Hollywood, big shot for a while, and then kind of got blacklisted, like you said. Because he's had run-ins with so many people. But he's still a great writer, and Mel is a great director and a great actor. But you're also taking two of the most volatile personalities in Hollywood and having them work together. It's not going to go well.
Yeah,
so none of this is surprising.
Yeah, and throw a dash of alcohol in the mix.
Yeah, exactly.
Well.
They're all gonna destroy each other.
Keep Mel on the wagon.
Oh, what do you think?
Is Mel on the wagon? I don't know. Has he come out?
Who knows?
Yeah. One other thing about Eszterhas, again with the anti-Semitism deal, his father was investigated. Joe Eszterhas's father was investigated by the U.S. Department of Justice in 1990 for writing anti-Semitic propaganda in Hungary during the 30s and early 40s. Joe Eszterhas refused further contact with his dad after this revelation, which he later claimed he regret, saying, when my father was in a Hungarian old age home, the nurses kept calling me and saying, quote, he's dying, he needs to see you, not going was a huge mistake, I've asked God to forgive me, but I don't think I'll be forgiven. I mean, I'm ready to do our next podcast, Joe Eszterhas and the Jews. I mean,
the Hungarians joined the Axis. I mean, they weren't occupied, right?
Right, they were the Axis powers.
Well, amongst others, yes, they fought.
They were part of that
against the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
So by Axis,
it's no big surprise that there's a large segment of anti-Semites.
They were the bad guys.
Well,
from a certain point of view.
Wasn't that a WWE attitude storyline?
Sided with Hitler.
It was Bull Buchanan. He came to the ring with the swastika on it. A swastika.
No, that was right to censor. How dare you? Let's see here. This film, Nowhere to Run, was the first in a 3-picture deal between Van Damme and Columbia Pictures. His fee was $3.5 million for this film. Columbia said the film is, quote, true to his audience and goes beyond his audience. Van Damme's quote on the script was the following. The script was not that good. The writer, meaning Eszterhas, told me he was going to fix everything. I was in his house. He shook my hand. He promised me, but he didn't fix it. So there's Van Damme's side of the whole script.
Eszterhas is a dick.
Okay. And as you guys mentioned earlier, Richard Marquand, who co-wrote, he's best known for directing Eye of the Needle, which I don't know, but that got the attention of, I believe, George Lucas, and then he did Return of the Jedi and Jagged Edge were his 2 big films. There you go.
And Return of the Jedi is marred a little bit because Lucas stepped in.
Yeah, well,
at some point.
you're not having much control when Lucas is on the set and you're doing Star Wars. So
I just love I love the ending where they go Jawa Jabba Jiba Jabba Jabba They need to.
Lucas went back and changed the ending.
I know, it's like this weird. We're not going to Star Wars from here, but
you'll get Sicco, please. I don't want to go into one of Andrew Christie's famous rant. We'll be here to midnight. Hungarian, Holland. We'll be here forever.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's take a look at the cast of Nowhere to Run. Jean Claude Van Damme is Sam Gillen. Rosanna Arquette as Clyde Anderson. Ted Levine as Mr. Dunstan. Kieran Culkin as Mike Mookie Anderson. Hi, I'm Mookie. Tiffany Taubman as Bree Anderson. Edward Blatchford as Sheriff Lonnie Cole. Josh Auckland as Franklin Hale. Is that the guy, Franklin Hale, the real estate developer? Is that? Yeah! Oh, yeah!
Diplomatic immunity.
Immunity denied.
License revoked.
With their house.
I love Family Guy. They do that too. Peter Griffin does that also. So I was like,
this is a great cast, right?
Well, when I watched it again, it goes to what Andrew said. I'll throw it to Andrew. Again, and Sicco actually mentioned it in a way with Seagal. You're taking a guy who's an action guy, and my thoughts notwithstanding is probably perceived not to be the greatest actor, Jean Claude, and you're surrounding him with a bunch of a pretty deep and strong cast here. Is that not your take on that, Andrew?
Yes. This is, if you look at it, this is not a good cast. This is a great cast. You've got Josh Ackland, who beyond Lethal Weapon, he was like in the Mighty Ducks series. He's been around forever. He's still alive. He's like in his late 90s at this point, but he's definitely
I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, he either plays a villain or like the kind old man, but he's been around forever. Ted Levine, he was Wild Bill from Silence of the Lambs. He's in Heat. He's a great character actor. Rosanna Arquette, all jokes aside, she has been around forever, and she's always been a very respected actress, and she's fucking beautiful. I just have to say that. Kieran Culkin
Prettier sister, in my opinion.
What's that?
Say that again.
Prettier sister, in my opinion.
100%. Than Patricia, absolutely.
If I could interject, I mean, Rosanna Arquette in this movie, if I could be somewhat surface, her beauty, I mean, this has to be the height of her powers. She is stunningly beautiful in this movie.
Yeah, well,
there's a song about her.
Was that Madonna?
Rosanna.
No, Toto.
Toto.
Yeah, she was dating Steve Porcaro, I think. She dated several band members, so inevitably...
Jeff Porcaro, he's the drummer who played with Bruce Springsteen on Human Touch, by the way. But anyway,
listen to our Human Touch.
Yeah, Rosanna Arquette. She was a movie star 10, 12 years before this movie. She did movies in the early '80s, so she's been around forever. And
After Hours.
What's that?
Yes.
Coppola's After Hours. I love
Scorsese. I think Scorsese did After Hours. Scorsese, right?
Scorsese?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Is that with Griffin Dunn?
Yes, Griffin Dunn, Cheech and Chong are in it. Yeah, it's a weird movie, but
I always get those two directors confused.
Yeah, no, it's Scorsese, but yes, this is an A-list character actor cast.
And everybody basically knows Rosanna Arquette from the Madonna video.
Desperately Seeking Susan. Yeah. So they've got the goods right now. They got a top writer. I don't know much about the director, Robert Harmon, but they got a lot of talent behind this movie here. A great composer, Mark Isham, who, if you look at his filmography, is pretty extensive. So they've got the goods here. So I expected...
They were setting up and pushing for Jean Claude Van Damme to reach the next level.
Yes.
That's what this whole movie is about. This is a true, honest-to-God vehicle. This is about building up Jean Claude Van Damme so he can, put butts in seats. It's obvious. And he does deliver in the sense that this movie made its money back. Big time. This was a success. It's just not the success they were hoping for. And... that's the discussion we're about to have, because I have some qualms about this thing.
Butts and seats, Jim Ross. Thank you. My biggest complaint, Guys, my biggest complaint with Rosanna Arquette's performance is she needed to tweeze her eyebrows just a little bit more for my liking. Thank you. She's so beautiful. I have trouble accepting her as like a mom of two kids. I mean, she's just stunning. Guys, Nowhere to Run's runtime 1 hour 34 minutes. It's rated R for violence, language, and sexuality. The plot for Nowhere to Run: Sam, an escaped convict, lands up on a farmland owned by a widow. When he learns that a ruthless contractor is trying to take over her land, he helps her to fight against the injustice. Groo, you want to do a little fun facts on Nowhere to Run?
Sure, please. Oh, wait, I forgot. Yeah, we got a thing. Hold on. Hold on, wait.
Come on, Fred Norris.
No, I forgot about that one. Hold on. Just go. I forgot what I did with it.
See, there's nothing with quality.
I'm sorry.
All right.
This is warn people. This is mediocre podcasting.
Oh, wait. Quiet.
Nothing Worthwhile presents.
I got it.
All right. Fun facts about you last night. Are we on? I don't even. Okay. Anyway, fun facts. There's not a lot here. I went through a lot of stuff. I mean, let's just go on and say Rosanna Arquette has openly stated she did not like working with Jean Claude Van Damme, and stated in many interviews that she only took the role because good parts were few and far between.
Money! Work is work. But she's still a working actress, I'll give her that. She's still doing stuff.
And so is Patricia, by the way. Patricia's been in some fairly high-level stuff as of late.
Yeah, like TV, Medium, I think she did. She won like an Emmy.
Hulu, she did The Act, which was about that Munchausen, that girl that she jammed her up with medicines and surgery.
Oh, yeah. I didn't see it, but...
Anyway, as originally written by Joe Eszterhas and Richard Marquand, the name of this, I guess the script was Pals, which evolved into Nowhere to Run, was a character-driven drama without action sequences, the only retaining element being an escaped convict who falls in love with a neighboring widow and becomes a father figure to her children. Eszterhas disowned the final product. I apologize, we kind of stated that before, but I guess the original script was devoid of any action elements and was much more on a emotional acting level.
This was written for different actors. This was written for different. Joe had a different quality of actors in mind.
Did they Cloverfield this deal?
Probably. I mean, last night I watched Out of Africa with Robert Redford and Meryl Streep, and I was thinking, what if Robert Redford and Meryl Streep had done this script? What kind of movie would we have gotten? Well, we would have gotten a much more of a character study, a much more of a drama, and the family drama would have been at the center of it all, and there would have been a lot more tension. Whereas here, you see Jean Claude Van Damme constantly escaping to action. Constantly. You see him attempt these really hard scenes, hard for him in the sense that he has to convey and he has to emote and he has to do it, with silences, long silences. That's another thing I started wondering, is like, why is he so introspective and quiet? Is that his character,
naked,
or is that a director's choice? Because he was botching a lot of stuff, and they said, "Look, Jean-Claude, just play it silently, just convey with silence, right?" And Jean-Claude Van Damme does not succeed in this movie as an actor. He just does not succeed. He cannot rise up to a level that Robert Redford would have provided for this movie. He just does not. And it makes me sad, because at the time I was really rooting for Jean-Claude Van Damme to reach that next level, but now that I'm a little older and you see him attempt this, you see that he's reached his limitations.
Let me ask you this, Sicco and Groo. What if I told you on my notes the role of Sam, boy, you're going to believe this one, was originally meant for Mel Gibson?
Yes, and you would have had no problem doing this because Mel Gibson is a great actor.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of where Mel was in his career at that time, and
he never would have done this because
that was right around Man Without a Face. That was
he was about to do Maverick.
He directed his first movie. He directed Man Without a Face, which I thought was really good. So he would have. I think he would have done well with this movie.
Yes,
Mel Gibson, absolutely.
Yes, and Jean Claude Van Damme decided, well, okay, I won't do the kicks.
Well, I will say I want to save for our final review. We're going to get to it in a second.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, comparative to other movies in Jean Claude's filmography, the action is slightly tamped down in this movie.
Yes.
Like comparative to what was it? Oh my God! Was it Hard Target? One with Hard Target.
Yeah.
Which was set piece after set piece after set piece.
Mm-hmm.
Here, you can go. There are quite a bit of time between different action elements. At least when I watched it last night again, and let's
every action star attempts this at some point. I mean, Stallone had Over the Top, which is again. All the action parts are awesome. I love half of Over the Top. I love half of it. You know, the tournament is great. Stallone is believable as an arm wrestler, but the movie of the week, B-movie drama, is terrible. And it's terrible because it just doesn't make any sense. And it's terrible because Stallone is just not geared for that kind of stuff. He's an action guy. That's the reality of it all. And it's the same with Jean Claude Van Damme here. He was just too inexperienced, not well trained as an actor, and he was out of his depth. And you could tell because everybody he's in a scene with, even Kieran Culkin, they're all trying to keep him in the scene. I mean, Kieran Culkin is running loops around him, acting-wise.
Well, I mean, would you expect it to be any different?
I don't love Jean-Claude, but it's the reality of this is not his movie. He should have not been.
He says, Mookie, I'm looking for Spike Lee. Right?
Okay.
No, I'm serious. Yes. Like what kind of fucking name is that?
That's his nickname.
I know, but it's like... I don't know. It threw me.
This is the Hollywoodification of farm life. Hollywoodification of farm life. Because these people in reality are all inbred and ugly and stupid. Right?
I don't know.
They don't look like Roseanne Arquette.
They do, that's a good point.
They all girls who look like Roseanne Arquette. She has all her teeth.
Yes, and I'm sure there were other deals she could have made to stay on the land.
Yeah.
Short of them blowing it up.
Again, I would have liked her to tweeze her eyebrows just a little bit more.
I enjoyed this movie, but I enjoyed it from the action perspective. I thought of it in terms of, okay, I'm going to watch a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, I'm going to suffer through the acting, and I'm just going to enjoy the action of it all. And I did, see some, stuff I really enjoyed. I mean, aside from his heroics as a fireman, I mean, how much of a cliche was that?
Yeah, let me knock over a water tank. Well, listen, I see we're kind of angling towards final reviews. Let me throw it to Groo real quick. Groo, you want to give a crack at I have the domestic, which is the worldwide gross for Nowhere to Run. Mm-hmm. You want to take a crack at it?
Yeah, I remember the movie being successful, like Sicco said, but not out of the park. I am going to guess
1993 now.
1993, where a movie was a certified hit if it hit 100 million. If it hit 50 million, it's considered a hit. I'm going to go with 60 million.
Okay, well, I have the domestic gross for Nowhere at a little bit over 22 million.
Really? Wow.
It opened...
That's a fucking flop. That's not even close to it.
No,
it opened at 1,776 theaters. It ranked number 4 in its opening weekend. And then it dropped down to number 6 in weekend number 2. then to 9. It really dropped week number 3. It dropped almost 50% its third week in the theaters, and then by the fourth week it kind of tampered out.
$22 million.
But it only cost $50 million.
How much?
So they still made money. And worldwide, it did pretty well.
$15 million? That was the budget of this movie?
That was all. Yeah.
Actually, that's good because I didn't have...
Wait a second.
I didn't have the budget. All
right. So, Evan, I would have been way off on both of these this time. Usually I'm pretty good.
You're actually close because the worldwide box office was $64 million.
Worldwide? All right.
Worldwide.
I don't have that. Okay.
But a budget of $15 million when, let's see, you've got expensive character actors. You've got Van Damme himself making $3. Eszterhas probably commanded a good fee. Where did all the money go? Because the movie looks good.
It looks great.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. It's not a cheap B movie. Whatever. It's Columbia Pictures. It's top. It's top tier. So $15 million. That is nothing compared to. So all right.
Yeah,
so they
only showed a bus. They didn't show a prison. They only showed one farm. They never showed the project that they were doing. They only had sound effects for the dynamite. They never showed actual explosions.
Interesting.
So they were smart about.
And the prison bus driver. One little. Here's a fun fact. Mm-hmm. The prison bus driver, I think, was an actual prison bus driver because I've seen that same guy drive a prison bus in at least one other movie, and that was Another 48 Hours with Eddie Murphy. And in both of them, they got ambushed and flipped over. So this guy's not doing very well driving a prison bus.
That's listed as a factual error because it says here that the Federal Bureau of Prisons, when they move prisoners, it's always in an unmarked vehicle, and there would be at least a lead car and at least 2 or 3 cars behind it as an escort.
But this is a Hollywood trope.
I know. Come on. Right off the bat, I'm watching.
He said trope. He said trope.
I agree. And that one I do agree. I'm like, are they really going to fucking sell me on some Billy Bob in his Corvette is going to tip over a Federal Bureau of Prisons bus?
Billy Bob. Even that guy. Can I say one thing though? Even that guy, for the minute and a half he was in the movie, even he is a well-known character actor. I've seen that guy. I even know his name, Anthony Stark. I've seen him in a lot of movies. Yeah. So there are no imposters here. What's that?
Did you guys catch the cameos in the bus?
No.
I believe Chuck Zito is Chuck Zito one of them?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's one.
I don't know. I was looking for like a wrestler type or something because, these guys have like bodybuilders.
Arnold's friend is in it. Sven-Ole Thorsen.
Oh, I thought that was Tom Arnold. I thought Tom Arnold was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Sven-Ole's a little bit bigger than Tom Arnold. And guess who else? Vinnie Jones in one of his first parts.
Ooh.
Vinnie Jones is in it.
Oh, I did not.
I don't know. On the bus, all I was doing was wondering how Van Damme looked so pretty coming from prison. I mean, Jesus Christ.
He's a prison
Groo, if I could just interject, I thought the same effing thing. I'm like, what is this, Chance Boudreaux? He's got the pressed linen shirt.
The hairstyle,
hair's moosed back. He's got the 3-day stubble. He looks like fucking right out of my
Don Johnson, for Christ's sake.
He looks even better than he did in Death Warrant.
Yes, he did.
And hey, I don't play and I don't punk.
I don't. That's good.
The Pink Flamingos. Crew, for Groo. Fellas, what do the critics have to say about Nowhere to Run? Nowhere to Run scored a 36% on the tomato meter based on 25 reviews.
That's pretty good for Van Damme. Right? What do you think, Evan?
Tomatoes.
For Jean Claude Van Damme.
I guess if you want to put it in that that level, but I mean, 36% is still 36%.
That's true.
Right?
It's true. Yeah. I mean, critics though.
Well,
this is not made for critics. This is made for fans.
But what do you think about what do you fellas? What do you want to give a thought on the audience score? Was it higher than 36 or lower than 36 for Rotten Tomatoes?
I think it was definitely higher. 47, you say? I'm going to go a little bit higher, and I'm going to go 58, 59.
Well, again, we have one of those rare instances where the audience score is lower than the critic score, 32%, based over 10,000 audience member reviews. Fellas, let me give you a couple of critics, just quick hitting stuff on Nowhere to Run. Variety said, quote, a relentless, corny, and shamelessly derivative vehicle. Vincent Canby of the New York Times. Several members of the Astor Plaza audience yesterday afternoon could not contain their merriment when, in the middle of the film, Mr. Van Damme's character identified himself as a lawyer. Yeah. By the way, I'm going to tell you this much. This is why I fucking hate the New York Times. Those highbrow assholes. Just because of this, forgetting whatever else politics, I will never, ever read an article from the New York Times again. And this stuck-up asshole that's got to be such a dick. Roger Ebert, Chicago Sun-Times. This is the kind of movie that is so witlessly generic that the plot and title disappear in the midst of other recycled plot and interchangeable titles. And finally, Richard Harrington of the Washington Post. While it boasts better supporting actors and technical credits than other Van Damme projects, the film nonetheless flounders. A victim of its own lugubrious pace and misguided efforts at turning the Bulgin Belgian into romantic leave. Fellas, there's Nowhere to Run now. It's 1993. It's Jean Claude Van Damme. Boys, what's the final word on Nowhere to Run? On the 0 to 4 Van Damme meter?
I think they missed the point.
Well, let's throw it to Groo first on a scale of 0 to 4 salt shakers. Andrew, what do you have to say about Nowhere to Run?
All right, I'm going to give you a quote from someone you just mentioned, the late great Roger Ebert. This is not from a movie. This is not from Nowhere to Run. This is from another movie review that he did, but I'm going to quote it. Okay, so start the quote now. I hated this movie. Hated this movie. Hated it. Hated every simpering, stupid, vacant, audience-insulting moment of it. Hated the sensibility that thought anyone would like it. Hated the implied insult to the audience by its belief that anyone would be entertained by it. I give it 0 out of 4 whatevers. What was it?
Salt shakers.
Salt shakers. Why?
Come on, don't disrespect me.
I forgot. I just forgot what they were. But 0 out of 4 because pretty much everything Sicco said I agree with. They had all of this. Well, no. They had.
Of course, because he's the new flavor.
No, that's not why. It's because he said it way before he was supposed to, and you admonished him for that. So Well,
that's why I went right to the final.
Right. So, but for the reasons that he said, they had all the goods. They had the top screenwriters. They had top actors. They had top everything, and they fucked it up by making it a Van Damme movie. Robert Redford and Meryl Streep would have killed this movie because it's trying to be a character study and it's failing miserably. Why? Because the main guy can't do a character study. Number 2, the action takes away from that stuff. The only believable moments of this movie are when we're with just the family, not even when Van Damme is with them. Just Rosanna Arquette and the 2 kids. Those are the only those are the only parts of the movie that I actually believed and actually was into, just because that's the only kind of character work that was going on. I didn't give a rat's ass about that. That ending's supposed to be so heartwarming. Like it's not a true happy ending because he's going back to jail, but he's redeemed himself for his burglary. And by the way, if he's got all that cash stashed away, what the fuck is he camping out in a tent in a backyard for? He can get out of the country with that bag of cash. This movie sucked, and I was really hoping, and I thought that it would be so much better because I did see it years ago and I remember liking it. I am astonished how much I hated this movie. All right, long answer to a short question. 0 out of 4.
I'm going to save it. I'm going to throw it to Sicco in a second. I am a little bit surprised because Andrew usually, I get like, this movie was so bad, I loved it, but
that doesn't apply here.
That's pretty definitive. Sicco, the floor is yours. You can go on how many salt shakers, or just give us overall a more detailed review. Nowhere to run.
Sure. I give this 2 salt shakers.
And why?
2, because the cinematography is good, the sound design is great, I loved all the character actors in it, and I also loved Jean Claude Van Damme in it, although he was in a separate movie and doing his own thing. But here's the problem I have, the real problem I have with this movie. Who did they make this for? This was supposed to be a family movie, right? Why are there children being exposed to a naked, strange man in the forest? Why are they bringing up the size of his dick at the dinner table? And is the mother explaining, I just saw him in the shower, he is average. Why are there gratuitous breast shots?
Well,
for children?
Nobody's perfect.
So this is not a children's movie. No, it is a kind of a sexual thriller. Because they're stalking, because, he comes up to the house.
That does fit Eszterhas.
Right?
Yeah, right.
He's a voyeur in the beginning there.
Well, actually, in my notes...
As our good friend from I Must Break This podcast, Sean, would say, this is a disjointed movie. So that's why I take 2 salt shakers off. I give it the 2 because I do think with perhaps better editing, and perhaps better directing, and perhaps a better idea for this movie, they could have done more with Jean Claude Van Damme. I just don't think they understood him. Because Jean Claude Van Damme was trying, you can tell. And Jean Claude Van Damme is a father of many children, and he has good rapport, you can tell. And remember, I sent you guys a documentary starring Kieran Culkin on this movie, and he's talking about, how much fun Jean Claude Van Damme was on the set, and I can imagine, because he's just a charming Belgian dude who has fun with people, and he's serious as a heart attack when it comes to the action stuff, and you can tell how much he was gritting his teeth to do a good job in all the dramatic scenes. He just couldn't cut it. Despite all the talent that surrounded him, he just couldn't cut it.
Yeah, but that's not on. Yes,
better.
I agree with you, but that's not on. That's not on him. That's on the film. That's on the filmmakers. That's on the director. That's on them to put this thing together. And that, to me, it's all about wasted talent. And when you waste what you got, I never want to hear about the movie again. So because that's
still though, that motorcycle sequence is fun to watch.
But the thing is,
oh my God, I thought it was.
No, but that's the thing. Without, I mean, we can watch stunts whenever we want without some meat behind it, without some foundation. When it means nothing, if Stallone is jumping on a motorcycle, driving down the street in First Blood just for no reason, we don't give a shit. But he's on the run from these dirty cops, so we're all in. Here, we don't give a fuck. We know it's supposed to be eye candy, and that's why I resent it even more. That's why I hate it.
This is a criminal running from justice. This is a criminal. I mean, after he escapes, but
we have no idea who he is. We haven't even met him yet.
He plays, again, he tries to do that tweener where he's the benevolent criminal, and then I think when you get the audio from Billy, he indicates that Jean Claude took the fall for Billy. I think that Billy was the one that committed the hardcore crime.
Well, they both did it.
Yeah, they were doing a robbery, and Billy
killed a guard. Billy killed a guard.
Okay,
still robbing a bank.
I understand. I mean, to me, Jean Claude plays 2 characters: benevolent bad guys or twins. I mean, that's really his filmography.
Sometimes he plays both in the same movie.
Guys, I'm gonna surprise. I surprised myself. I gave it 2.5 salt shakers, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because when you mentioned disjointed, usually I have my notes all typed up. I rewatched this movie last night, and I handwrote some notes. I was all over the place watching this movie. The opening scene, I'm like, are they really going to sell me on this, bullshit prison, convict on the run? But then and you guys mentioned, Kieran Culkin comes on the screen and goes, "Hi, I'm Mookie," and he needs a father figure, and it's like all of a sudden I'm kind of falling for that. And this movie, like, I can't disagree with any of your criticisms, but there was, I guess, enough there. It kept my attention, and at the end of the movie, I was kind of satisfied. It wasn't of any great quality. I mean, the plot is so flimsy, and I know you guys mentioned, like, you know, Redford.
It feels like
Gibson.
an episode of the A-Team, doesn't it?
I mean, like, would you really? I mean, is I don't care if it's Robert Redford. I know it's '93, but am I really buying a convict is going to sleep on a tent in my farm, and then somehow I'm going to befriend them? Then when you talk about the beginning. Yeah, he's a voyeur. He's a stalker. He walks into the house and he's watching the woman naked, and yet it's not. I'm all creeped out, but yet I guess it's '93, and I don't know. It gets a little bit of a weird pass. So, you know, Groo, I kind of thought like, and this is probably not the greatest analogy because it's not the same kind of film, but you know, remember how we walked out of Legally Blonde and we went, I kind of liked it.
Yeah, we were afraid to admit it.
I ended the movie and I went, there was enough there. I mean, Jean Claude, you know, I know you guys mentioned about his acting. I think Jean Claude's a decent actor. I've been on record on this podcast and other podcasts.
He's just not great.
I didn't say, but I mean, if you could compare him to, you know, some of his last of the action, okay, sure, okay, but he can emote, and the plot is flimsy, but I enjoyed Ted Levine. I enjoyed Kieran Culkin. Patricia Arquette, I didn't really buy into that relationship because perhaps I was shaded by her comments, but I didn't really have the really, really great chemistry. I thought the movie tamped down the action. I thought that motorcycle was just ridiculous. I mean, he's on a cliff and he rides down, and
it looks great.
So I probably have contradicted myself a million times, but at the end of the movie, I liked it enough. I thought it was okay. You know.
Well, if you can walk away from a movie not hating it, then it's perfectly legit. I walked away from it pissed off at how good I thought it could have been. And so, like, do you guys think that we would all like this movie better if they actually pivoted and went for the action thing, like, and sort of B-movied it up so it didn't look as good, but it was more fun, so it was like trying to be more like an earlier Van Damme movie, like a Bloodsport, instead of trying to go for the gold,
yes,
you know,
kicks.
What's that?
It needed the kicks.
Yeah, but they're trying to. Like you said, they're trying to get Van Damme to the next level. And you know what? Van Damme is not next level as far as an actor goes. Nope. But I have said on this podcast before, there was one performance that he really, truly impressed me with his acting, and that was Expendables 2. Yes, that's really the only time I've ever been like, wow, he's fucking good.
That's a seasoned Jean Claude Van Damme.
He's also playing a villain.
Producing his own stuff.
He's also playing a villain, you know, and he's getting to chew the scenery a little bit. So you know, instead of here where he's just looking at things, you know, pretty much the whole time. So
is that your requisite mentioning Jean Claude's best acting performance every podcast? Expendables 2.
If we're criticizing his acting, you know, whether it's good or bad, I say the only time I've ever been impressed with him as an actor would be in that one movie. Honestly, he's a great screen presence.
He kicks a knife into someone's chest.
Yeah.
Well, what was again? I'm drawing a blank. The John Woo. What was that?
The John
Chance
Woo.
Boudreaux.
Oh,
what was the last one?
Yeah.
Hard Target?
Boudreaux was not Hard Target, was it?
Chance Boudreaux, the New Orleans with John Woo.
Oh, yeah, okay, yes. No, was that Maximum Risk or was that Hard Target?
No, Maximum Risk.
All right, Hard Target.
No, that's the one where I was angry. That's the one where I was like, you know, I don't think I gave it 0, but that's the one where I was like, you know, he's a handsome homeless guy, and you know, then suddenly he's solving crimes, and that to me, I was. And
the hair was horrible.
Yeah, just, you know, I mean, and John Woo with the doves. I didn't, you know, I respect John Woo, but I didn't quite see that movie and go, wow, we're on a stunning action auteur like his first American, that one I was angrier. Here, I get it. It feels like, what are they, like they're trying to do a tweener thing. They want to give you that drama, but yet still go back to the action stuff that is in Jean Claude's wheelhouse. I suppose. Well,
look, when I purposely didn't read up on anything before watching it again, and when I saw like the credits and I saw Joss Ackland, I saw Ted Levine, I'm like, oh shit, this is going to be good. We got some talent here, So I would think that the script would serve that talent. I take Eszterhas' side. I can imagine his script was probably a million times better than what was actually on the screen. I have to believe that, because if I were Joe Eszterhas, I would have
to fit Jean Claude.
Yeah, and it doesn't work. And to take
on the other hand, it is an 18-episode plot.
Yes, but it's a good one. It's a good plot with good characters, with a good story and good talent. Just a zero execution as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I thought the plot was flimsy. I mean, I know it's 93, but escaped convict, befriending. I didn't really buy into that. I bought into more the performance. When Kieran Culkin, Milky,
you will reach suspension of disbelief again when you imagine Rosanna Arquette as an unattractive woman. If this is an unattractive farm woman and she meets Jean Claude Van Damme, then it makes perfect sense that she invites him to her barn and later into her bed. If she's like, 300 pounds and missing teeth and has bad hair and bad skin and ugly, stupid kids called Mookie, and doesn't take care of her farm animals.
Oh boy.
Right?
I love when.
But see that would have been interesting. You know why that would have been interesting? Because now Van Damme is in a situation where he doesn't want to be there, but he kind of needs to be because he's an escaped convict. Here, he's like, hey, shit, I'll chill here forever. I got this gorgeous woman here, got these nice kids, but if it's a fucking horror show, then that throws a wrench into the whole thing. That's a little bit more interesting,
I love the scene when they're at the dinner table and she says to the kids, come on, let's go. It's time to go to sleep, and Kieran Culkin walks halfway up the stairs and runs down and gives Jean Claude a hug. And Jean Claude's like, and then you see Patricia Rosanna Arquette's like longing for that male figure in my children's life.
Now what if that role?
I was like, honey, pass the ice cream, pass the chocolate.
Yeah, and now what if that role? What if I almost called him Boudreaux? What if Sam walked up to the house, looked inside, and saw the first time he sees her, she's like changing, right? She's changing. Yeah. So what if this part was played by Kathy Bates?
There you go. See.
Now you got something.
Immediately.
But now he's got a dilemma. Now he's like, well, shit. I got to get in here, but I don't want to. I'm not that attractive.
Yeah, or mid-90s Kathleen Turner. When she started eating.
Hello, Sam.
We're such bastards.
See? There you go.
Oh, that poor woman.
Listen, Groo, give us one thing you're watching this week, please.
Yes, one thing I'm watching this week. I am watching the second season, the long-awaited second season, by apparently only me, of an Amazon TV show called Hunters. It's called Hunters with Al Pacino, who is the leader of a band of Nazi hunters in America in the late 70s when there were Nazis who were sort of hiding out around the country. The first season is one of my favorite seasons of TV. I was hooked from the very beginning. I think I've talked about this show before. But the pandemic shut down everything for a couple of years, and now they just came out with their 8-episode second and final season, and I'm halfway through it, and the reviews haven't been that good. And I'm not quite understanding it because I'm halfway through and I am fucking riveted. So I am watching Hunters on Amazon this week. I'm probably going to finish it by today, hopefully.
There you go. Only on Van Dammit are you going to get exquisite commentary, like fucking riveted.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Sicko, anything you want to recommend to our dozens of listeners?
Well, dozens of listeners who are obviously riveted to the show. Yes, well, what am I watching? I am watching À la Folie, which is a French movie, and I'm watching this because my new co-host is starring in it. I have a French-Belgian actress. I talked her into doing a new show with me, so we're going to start working on that. So that behooves me to watch her movie. I'm also watching Man Without a Face because I am recording that with Sean tomorrow.
Where do you get that? I can't. It's very difficult to find. It's a really good movie.
Man Without a Face?
Yeah, Mel Gibson. It's not.
It's on Amazon.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that, Evan? The Man Without a Face by
it's a great movie.
It really is. It's that was his first movie he directed.
Stop sucking up to the new co-host, okay, please. I love Man Without a Face.
I enjoy the sucking.
Wait, I think I brought that movie up earlier in the podcast.
You did?
I did.
Clearly,
so,
yes.
Points for you.
Yeah, I'd like to
and I'm
rewatch
also watching Spies Like Us because I will be recording a special episode on that movie with Jack from the Bond podcast. We'll probably be doing that
Spies Like Us
again because we had a fun time doing Drunk Fugitive. That was awesome.
You know what? Next time we get you on, you'll message us like a liquor. We'll all have a bottle and we'll do.
Yeah, I want to do a drunk. Yeah,
I want to
drunk and worthwhile
too.
Drunk and worthwhile. Drunk and worthwhile.
Jack on.
Okay.
Have him take care of all the drinks. That's why he's always fun at the office party.
Listen, early on in the run, we were asked to co-host with Ryan, and then ever since then, it's been a barren wasteland of we've been shunned like we have shingles or leprosy.
It's your house. You have to invite people.
Good point.
This is true. Yeah, but we're like a closed.
I was kind of stoked to do the prison movie.
Which
with Jean Claude Van Damme. That's the what's that?
Death Warrant.
It was Death Warrant. Yeah, we were going to do that one.
We did that.
I apologize.
That's no problem.
Already. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was stoked to do that because that's
Cynthia Gibb.
I love that.
The Cynthia Gibb movie. Yeah. How far down the line is
Marx's wife?
How far down the line is Sudden Death? The movie.
I think Sudden Death is perhaps after
Time Cop.
I believe that we're going to do.
Nice. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to rewatching that movie.
All right, listen,
guys. You know what you're going to enjoy? You're going to enjoy The Quest.
I never saw it.
That's Jean Claude Van Damme's
Isn't that like a period piece? He's like in the
I never saw it.
With Roger freaking Moore. So if you're smart, that's the one you do drunk. You get that.
All right. There we go.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Listen, guys, I barely watch any, I watch like Family Guy reruns, wrestling, and, but I will say, I'm only going to say this very briefly. I am watching A Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone, and enjoying it, and I will save, so far enjoying it, and I will save any other thoughts for a future.
I hear it's really funny.
Future podcast.
I hear it's Stallone at his funniest.
Well, that's what I've put that in the chat that we all have. I think it is. But I don't want to ruin it for him. I don't want to ruin it.
Listen to my review because Andrew shaded. I'll give you the definitive.
I'm completely
Stallone review. And actually, my fiance Marie is really super enjoying it. So, and actually, that's a good sign because she's not a movie fan or anything like nutty like we are, and for just a typical person to sit down and watch it and be like, oh, this is interesting, I think is a good sign. So Groo, when Groo and I return back to the mothership, Nothing Worthwhile will be live in Orlando, Florida. It's our 100th episode. 100 episodes and over 20,000 downloads later. Moody and Groo will celebrate this milestone like no one else can, brother. As we will be giving you our reaction to seeing the boss, Bruce Springsteen, live. All 73 years old of him with the E Street Band. We'll talk Bruce. We'll give you our thoughts on the show. We'll give you some scoops on all things pop culture with the week that was. Who knows? Maybe the WWE will be sold. Maybe it won't. Who knows? Who cares? Andrew Gruthius.
Hey, there's a reason why they kicked out Vince.
Well, now he's back. It's our 100th episode, and it's fitting, Groo. It's Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band live.
Yeah, well, look, there's a lot of things to look forward to in the next couple weeks. Number one of which is that we're getting the band back together, meaning us, meaning you and me and our buddies that we're meeting up with up there. So that is first and foremost, and we'll be going to see Springsteen on, I believe, the second show of this tour. So it'll be interesting to catch it at the beginning and then have a nice podcast live show after to get our thoughts. But yeah, I mean, so much to look forward to. We got WrestleMania coming up. We got the future's bright, may I say.
Is it really?
Well, as bright as it can be in our world.
Again with the Bruce Springsteen?
That's what I get to. That's what I get to. That's what I get to.
Again with the wrestling? Again with the wrestling?
I think my mom has given up at this point. She's given up at this point.
Exactly. As April, and my wife is like, Metallica.
As well you should.
Old for that.
Hey,
what I say is, you know what? They're too old for that, and I'm going to try and catch them
while we can,
as many times as I can, while I can. And if I got a few extra bucks in my pocket, I'm going to the show.
Absolutely. Well, my theory, the way I do it is, whether I have a few extra bucks in my pocket or not, I still go. So that just doesn't matter to me anymore. My parents have given up on that. I like what I like. I like what I like, and they respect that. So
yeah, pretty much mine as well. Fellas, in 1 month's time, Van Dammit will be back, and it's a big one. We jump one big year to 1994 to Jean Claude Van Damme. It's Time Cop, directed by Peter Hyams, co-starring Mia Sara and Ron Silver. They killed his wife 10 years ago. There's still time to save her. Murder is forever. Until now. Groo, Jean Claude, Time Cop.
Never saw it. Looking forward to seeing it. So, and it's definitely, I really am a fan of time hopping movies because it really gives writers a chance to be truly creative. And when they do them right, there's nothing better. By
the way, if I could just jump in,
please.
I am not a fan of time hop. Now, I'll say I don't. You know, I definitely saw Time Cop in the theater. I'm looking forward to it because it's got Ron Silver. So I'm looking forward to that. But like, I feel like with MCU, I've said this before, Terminator Genesis, like these multiple realities and hopping, it's too confusing for me, and I think whereas you see it as a chance for writers to be creative, I see it as a chance to be lazy, actually, and nothing really matters. No ending is final, because you could just go back in time and change At first, with Terminator, it was cute and like, oh my god, mind-blowing when I was 14 years old. Now at 52, I'm like, wait a second, I just sat through this whole movie and the heroine is dead, but we could just go back and wait another 30 years, and I don't know. I don't know how you fellas feel about it.
Well, I'll just say one thing. I'll make a small addendum to what I just said. I love time hop movies when they're done well. And they're not often done very well because they do usually choose the road less traveled and get a little lazy. Okay? But if you look at a movie like Back to the Future, that's where everything worked and they really got creative at every single corner. But the sequels, right, the sequels, no. The sequels, no. I'm leaving them out. Terminator does work because they kept it simple. When they went crazy with it and jumping to this year and then that year, that's when it's out of convenience. But when it's done right, when there's a simple story complicated by this time thing, and you got good characters and good writing, of course. So, but I'm looking forward to it.
Let's give Sicko the last word.
To ruin your life.
Oh, I know. Believe me, we saw that coming a mile away.
Dial of Time.
The Dial
of
Destiny.
Any thoughts on that, Sicko? Are you a fan of these, with the time hops and alternate realities?
No, it's lazy writing.
Let me ask you a quick question before we wrap it up. Just succinctly, what do you think of the MCU, Marvel? Are you a fan? You like any of that stuff? I'm just curious your thoughts.
Yes, the MCU. Okay, so please let's all dig a really big hole. Let's dump all that MCU stuff and also the DC stuff. I'm actually a DC guy, but they just ruined it. Let's dump everything in there. Every mentionable superhero. Let's light it on fire and roast it to it's toasted. Then cover it in concrete, cover it in dirt, and let's plant nice trees on it. And let's make good movies again. Just use that ridiculous amount of money you use making these stupid tentpole movies that are about nothing, do nothing, create nothing, and don't stimulate anything. Let's just dump it all in the landfill and forget about it and just make good movies again. Go back to the 70s, go back to the 80s, go back to when movies were good. Let talented people, let auteur directors do their stuff again, and we're going to be entertained by original things and not the same franchise over and over and over and over again by some corporation that just wants to make money. Screw all that.
Note to self: cancel Ant-Man and Quantumania tickets. Oh, sorry guys, I just was
I hear what you're saying.
If you have kids, I get it, but if you don't have kids.
Are you applying that? Are you applying that to what's to come or what has already come? Like, do you appreciate? Well, for example, I think that the 4 Avengers movies, Avengers, Ultron, Infinity War, and Endgame are phenomenal. The rest of it I could do without, but that Infinity Saga there, I think is great movie making on every level.
Phenomenal is a strong.
I'm using it.
It kind of reminds me of the Harry Potter series.
I've never seen any.
You want it to be good.
1 minute.
You imagine it to be good. You're invested in it to be good. But when you really look at it again, you're thinking, "What is this mess? This isn't like the books." Just like Infinity War isn't like the comic.
Well, I never read the comic book. First
of all, it's like Walking Dead. Walking Dead is a great comic book. It's a shitty TV show.
Wow, every single person besides me that I know watches that show.
Yeah, I didn't hang with Walking Dead. I watched the first season or 2 and I lost. First of all,
because that was Frank Darabont and that was good, and then they took it away from him and turned it to shit.
Well, first of all, Groo had some kind of epiphany, because the first 2 years of any podcast, when we mentioned Marvel, he shitted all over it.
Yeah, I did.
He was like Scorsese, it's not movies. Then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. Maybe he got some kind of deal.
No, I saw. Wait, I'll tell you exactly what happened. Listen, wait a minute. I saw Infinity War and Endgame, and I really was taken by both of them. They're basically one movie. So that really, I just love those. It's kind of like Star Wars. Okay, I love the original trilogy, and I do love the prequels. Not interested. I don't like the sequels. Some of the TV shows I like. Love the Obi-Wan one, but a couple, But other than that, they're going too crazy. Star Wars has happened. Leave it where it is. That's the way I look at that.
The problem with MCU extended after Infinity War and Endgame is it's become a virtual signaling woke mess on top of a convoluted multi-dimensional multi-reality plot lines. It's very hard to follow.
Watching the kids. Really.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Well, there is that clearly, and I agree with you. But then on top of, I'm a guy. I'm not smart. I need. Well, it's a very woke. Just watch She-Hulk.
I haven't seen anything past Endgame, so because I'm not interested.
Greg watched it and enjoyed it.
She-Hulk?
He enjoyed She-Hulk for what it was.
My God! That ending was just so terrible, and I'll gladly come on with Craig and debate that crap. It's so meta and so. Why I wasted sitting through 9 episodes to get an ending that's so insider and the feminine. Come on.
You should have Craig on anyway, just for having the pleasure of Craig Cohen on your.
No, he should have me on. Anyway, all right, fellas. All right, so.
All right, it's Last of the Action podcast. Last of the Action Heroes Civil War.
There you go. Groo, you want to take us out of here?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to throw a big thank you to Sicco for joining us today.
Yes.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Hopefully you can do it again, whenever you're available. We really enjoyed it. I mean, it was a really great conversation about so many different things.
Yeah, a lot
truly enjoyable. I'm getting sick of talking to this guy nonstop. So now that we have a little,
that's what guests are for.
Yeah, but yes, Sicco, please listen to Sicco's Hugging the Cactus podcast on the Last of the Action podcast network. Next week we will be off. Actually, the next 2 weeks we're taking a little sabbatical, but we will be returning bigger and badder and better than ever. 3 weeks from today, 3 weeks from tomorrow, live from Orlando, Florida, we will be talking about Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band back on tour 2023. Perhaps some special guests will join us, possibly, and what's coming up in the future of Nothing Worthwhile and Van Dammit, you'll have to stay tuned to find out. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, no retreat.
Oh my God!
What?
Did you do it any less enthusiastic?
All right, I'm sorry. Wait, hold on, ladies and gentlemen. With that being said, no retreat,
no surrender, brother.
Sicco, what do you got? You got anything?
Hit end.
All right, we're out of here. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.
You kung fu fighting quickly.
It's already been on.
Oh God!
All right, we're out.
That was awesome.